Kid who had a pee jar in his closet. Reddit, what's the most effed up thing you saw at a sleepover? Sleepover in friend's basement with 4 of us there. I think this was 4th grade. Sometime around midnight the host friend's dad opened the door at the top of the basement stairs to ask if we wanted snacks, but right as the word started out of his mouth, he comes tumbling down the stairs and hit his head pretty hard. He didn't move for what felt like forever and we heard from the top of the stairs some delirious yelling. My innocent self thought it was the host's mom, afraid because her husband just tripped and fell. My other friend later explained to me that no, the host mom was drunk off her ass and pushed the dad down the stairs. So yeah, I guess I witnessed a wife try to kill her husband. I slept over a friend's house when I was around 10 and we were playing Nintendo. At some point he yelled shit and without a word his dad comes storming into the room, pulled him up and just started spanking him in front of me, then took him out into the hallway to scold him. Then he just came back as if nothing happened but with a red face and teary eyes. It was the most awkward, uncomfortable night of my life, having to continue on pretending to have a fun sleepover after that, but I felt so bad for him. I did my best. It was what I imagined sleeping over at Butter's house would be like. I have another sleepover story that always sticks in my mind too, but does not deserve its own post, so I'll just summarize here. Watched Aladdin at a b-day party, woke up later that night to friend's older bro jerking off noisily in his sleeping bag with the movie paused on a scene of Jasmine. My friend's older brother would get mad at her for small things, went in his room, lost the TV remote, shut a door too loudly, and proceed to beat the SHT out of her. Pull her hair and hold her down and punch her in the sides, literally throw her across the room. He was almost 10 years older than us and easily had 100 to 150 pounds on her. He would eventually tire from the beatings, leave the room, and she would go back to playing with me like nothing happened. I remember being so unbelievably shocked by it, but eventually became desensitized because of how normal it seemed to her, and how unfazed she was by it. Kid who had a pee jar in his closet. It was a gallon pickle jar. If he had to pee in the middle of the night he had to use the jar. Once his mom put us, in his room for the night. We weren't allowed to leave his room until she came to get us the next morning. How did they make sure of that? The doorknob was turned around backwards so they could lock us in. Holy SHT, my inbox. Okay, the jar was for emergency use only and was emptied and washed in the morning if he used it. Probably rarely used it since most kids that age can hold it all night. He was a bad kid and stayed in trouble. Pretty sure the lock thing was to send him to his room and make sure he stayed there. Don't know about the parents' sexual habits, but am not surprised that most of Reddit immediately jumps on the Dr. G. Fuelgerguy's responses. One time I was at a friend's house for a sleepover and he and another friend held me down on the couch and tried to light my hair on fire with lighters. I managed to break free and ran upstairs and asked my friend's mom to let me use the phone. Mom came promptly to pick me up. Needless to say, I was not on speaking terms with the other two again. When I was 12, we went on a family trip to Vegas. I woke up in the hotel to my parents having sex in the bed next to me. I was trapped and had nowhere to go. My mom said something along the lines of "Stop, we're gonna wake up the kids." My dad gets up, walks over to our bed and rips the blankets off our faces and said, "See, fast asleep." I should have won an Oscar. Edit: I had no idea this would blow up. Thank you for all the love, strangers. I have no idea how this works, huh? So this obviously messed with me going forward. Any trips after this, I just waited my parents out. They would say small things like "going to bed anytime soon?" And I'm just flat out like nope. They would fall asleep and I won. In hindsight, as an adult with kids, I do feel bad for blocking every future family trip. I was 13-14 and staying the night at a friend's house with 2 other girls, when we were woken up by a loud popping noise from her brother's room. Naturally 4 curious girls went to see what the hell he was doing at 3 in the morning. Her mom came running up the stairs about the time we entered his room, and quickly herded us back out of his room in hysterics. It took my brain forever to register that he had shot himself in the chest. Luckily he survived, and I never had another sleepover at someone else's house again. Plenty of nightmares though. When I was like 9 or 10 I spent the night at a friend's house. I knew his mom was pretty strict, but holy shit did I find out how much. He did something really minor like leave his socks in the living room and she started shouting at him like he left a turd on the floor or something. Then he set her off again that night and she wailed on his ass so hard that it scared me. She was a psycho the way she was spanking and shouting at him. I hated her guts after that night. Edit: I have no idea how this guy turned out. We moved away soon after, and googling his common name is like looking for a John Smith. Also another guy with the same name was murdered in the same town. It want him, so it's buried pretty deep. When I was in elementary school, I got invited with my sister to a birthday party of one of her friends. Everything was going fine for most of the night, and then the catastrophe happened. Her mom came down to the basement and was clearly very upset, but didn't explain why. She then had each of us line up on the stairs from the basement to the ground level of the house and brought us in one by one. I wasn't the first in line, but no one was telling us what happened once it was their turn. Finally I was up, and her mom took me into the bathroom and showed me a trash can with a pee-op in it. She was basically on the verge of tears, pointing to the trash can and asking me, "Is this your pee-op? Is this your pee-op?" It wasn't. We never found out whose it was, or at least I wasn't told. We have joked that someone will finally come forward on their deathbed, but my sister and I have since lost contact with those girls, so we may never know. One of my BFF's dads tried to get me drunk and made a pass at me. I was 15 and staying at my one girlfriend's house. Her dad tried to be cool and buy us wine coolers. So she and I were up drinking and listening to music in her room. Her dad had to listening right outside of the door because when I went out into the hallway he popped right up in my face. He started getting way too close and handsy. This was not my first rodeo. I have been dodging my mom's sugar daddies, BF, for years, so I saw what was happening and escaped into the bathroom. I pretended to be sick until he left the hallway. I was friends with his daughter until college. I just made sure to never be alone with her dad again. Sad thing is I wasn't her only friend who he tried things with, but we never talked about it until years later. Girl put a massive ant in her vagina right in front of me like it was nothing. Same girl introduced my sisters and I to the choke yourself out game, where you take several deep breaths, hyperventilate and hold your breath until you pass out. Whoever fakes it had to sleep alone. Needless to say, my mom was pissed when she found us all unconscious in different areas of the bedroom. Edit: thanks for the awards. I'm only 2 months into Reddit, so much appreciated. We had put up a tent in my buddy's backyard. There was a catwalk that his backyard had a gate to, that went down between the houses and eventually came to a school field. It was late, we were chilling in the tent laughing and eating snacks, when we heard voices coming down the path. There were shrubs along the fence line, except for the gate area, so they couldn't see us, but we snuck out, and hid in the bushes and were going to scare them when they walked past. But the closer they got, the older they sounded. One guy sounded really angry. So we decided to stay super quiet, let them pass, and go back to the tent. When they got just past the house, the dude was pressuring this girl to give him a BL job right then and there. She didn't want to, but gave it after asking a couple times. We had to sit there for like 10 minutes until he came in. We're terrified that if we made a sound he would see us and kill us. We were probably around 12 years old, scary SHT. The dad's mistress came over. Apparently the mother knew of her existence and it had been putting a strain on things. My buddy and I hid in the basement while the wife and mistress were screaming at each other upstairs. Shockingly did not cause a divorce. I remember we did a secondary school bonding thing in our first year where you effectively go to a summer camp for the weekend with the whole year group, about 211 12-year-olds, to get to know everyone. Sleeping arrangements were in dormitories with bunk beds, separated by gender, about 30 to a room. Lights go out in my dorm, no teachers, just 30 11 12-year-olds that don't know each other that well. A kid farts. Hilarious. Someone else farts, a few others. Then, I vividly remember a distinct sloppy sound followed by a panicked "oh," a kid shat himself. I would also like to note, this was not the only public pants shitting by this kid, he did it again final year during our Duke of Edinburgh Award expedition overnight whilst camping. I was sharing a tent with him. That's a whole different story. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more quality content. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions. Goodbye.